Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the UMC French Update Progress Report. This time we'll be taking a look on French General Staff and Army, Air Force and Navy branches. There is definitely a lot to talk about and also a lot to show, mainly because French Army in 1936 is in a very unique state. It's very different from example, German Army. And I think I made pretty interesting and unique content for it. So we will first talk about why I even focused that much on this part of France. Then I will talk you about the history of French army and its current state. And then I will show you the French General Staff, and then we will take a look on the focuses of Army, Air Force and Navy branches. So, to answer the question why I even focus that much on French army branches, well, first of all, the situation and the state of French army might have decided the World War II, at least the first years of it. Secondly, it was really interesting to read about it and to make content on it. And thirdly, which is probably also the main reason, is that you have nothing else to really do as friends when you're playing on historical focuses, or if you are staying democratic. Also, another reason might be that when I'm working on nations overhaul, it's always the best to start with advisors, because that way you can much more interestingly use them throughout the focus tree and events and so on and so on. But yeah, I think the main reason is that I wanted to give friends to do something in the first 3 years of the game. Now let's talk a bit about French army history and its current situation. As you can see, the French army at the game start is really sizable. If fully supplied, it can have almost 600,000 men in the field. However, currently, because of the situation France is in, it has only 250,000. That is not only because of the harsh political situation in France, it is also because of how the French army functions. You see, the armies like the German one relies on heavily trained professional soldiers. In contrary, French army relies on the reservists, which can be mobilized in times of war. That's exactly what happened during the World War II. The French army had about 300,000 men in the field before the war began, but then, when Poland was attacked, they mobilized 2 million soldiers. In time, when Germany attacked France, they had about 2,200,000 men in the field. In-game, this is represented by this national spirit called Greatest Army in the World. This national spirit can be changed if you complete this decision and mobilize the reservist. You will gain additional 5% recruitable population, but it will cost you some division attack, defense and organization. You will also gain another national spirit called mobilization of the reservists, which will ease your population mobilization and training. What concerns another national spirits related to the army, we have army inflexibility, which tells you about how the French army and its general staff relies on French defenses and are unable to quickly react to the changing situation. Another one is low army funding, which drastically decrease army experience gain, which is here mainly because it would feel weird that you would gain ton of army experience through your advisors and then use it for the military doctrine as soon as you can. We will get to both of these national spirits later when we are going through the focus tree. But before that, let's talk about French General Staff. I put a lot of hours into this, mainly because of two reasons. First reason is that there are essentially two Frances. Free France and Vichy France. I wanted reasonable amount of advisors for both of them. Second reason is that, well, French general staff is pretty interesting, mainly because how old they are and also how unopen towards changes they are. And you will see that mentality being exploited throughout this video in the new content. You will also notice that a lot of advisors, well, I call them advisors, but they are chiefs or military high command, but let's call them advisors, alright? Well, you will see that a lot of advisors are locked behind, well, some conditions. That is because French army had a lot of very capable officers, but they were just too young to be in the military staff, and their place was instead occupied by the old officers who basically used World War I tactics in World War II. So yeah, you will really have to work out to overcome these obstacles if you want to make the French army a force to be reckoned with. Anyway, let's take a look on some chief of the army. We have Alphonse Juin, Alphonse Georges, Maurice Gamelin, and Maxime Weygand. Gamelin with Weygand led the defense of France, and till 1940 Gamelin was like the main guy in history in the French army, and one of the two army paths, focus paths, is dedicated to him. In the Chief of the Navy we have Francois Darlan, Emile Moselier, and Gabriel Aufan. There is a unique focus for Darlan, which we will take a look on later. In the Chief of Air Force we have René Bouscat, Jean-C Romanet, and Joseph Voulemin. As I said before, Vichy France and Free France both get at least one of these custom chiefs. When we take a look on the terrorists, we can see, apart from the unfinished ones, that we have Henry Giraud here and Charles de Gaulle, which is the second main man of the French army. Taking a look on the military high command, here you can really see that a lot of advisors here are blocked. That is because, as I said, French army had a lot of capable and skilled officers. However, they didn't really had a strong word in that time. So you'll be kinda stuck with advisors like Gaston Billot, who basically, when Germany attacked France and moved through the Ardennes, he went to depression and started crying and didn't know what to do. Yeah, but then you have advisors like Pierre Billot, who is his son and who was actually really skilled. The same thing goes with other military high command, especially for Air Force. For example, here you have advisor for close air support, a doctrine which was basically non-existent in French Air Force in that time. So you will first need to do some reorganization before you can employ him. But, and that's important to be said, I don't like when you are blocked from having the advisors till the end of the game. So you can always employ all of them if you complete certain focuses. And I will explain that in a minute when we take a look on the focus tree. So here we are. I think the Army, Air Force and Navy branches have a pretty respectable size. And so let's take a look more closely. We will start with the Army branches because those are the most important one. Here in the Army branch you have to make a choice at the start. Whether you want to go with Maurice Gamelin, guerre statique, which is static warfare. Gamelin is that one, chief of the army, this one. Or if you want to go with Charles de Gaulle's Vers l'armée de métier, which is basically the reformist path. So, first of all, these two paths or branches are very different from each other. If you go with the Gamelin's path, which is also the historical one, you will stay with the trench warfare doctrine and only slowly, very slowly do any significant changes to the army. When we take a look on this focus, which doesn't have GFX yet, you can see that apart from boosting Maurice Gamelin's skills, it also replaced Army Inflexibility National Spirit with Embrace Static Warfare National Spirit. On the left there is the Expand the Fortifications focuses, which are basically Fortress Friends focuses, where you can construct forts at all your borders. But if we follow the main line, you can see that you can expand two major production facilities, modernize heavy tanks and artillery, and finally press for the army modernization. It's also important to note that because of this national spirit, you can't actually research any military doctrines. And if you go down this path, you can only research military doctrine if you complete this focus, which, as you can see, remove that national spirit. So if we take a look when we go down that path, you will see that after completing this focus, these decisions unlock. The main thing here is this decision, which lasts for 3 years. As long as you have this decision, you can't complete this another focus and you can progress down this path. So this decision basically tells you how long it takes to even permit the reorganization. You can shorten it via this decision, and you can also enforce reorganization permits through this decision if you are at war, if there is more than 50% war tension, or if Germany doesn't have national spirit allied appeasement. Here you can now also see how much more important it is for Germany to keep that national spirit. Because as long as you as Germany has that national spirit, you will basically keep France from modernizing its army. You can also increase your war support through this decision and conduct local military training. Now, when this decision runs out, you will be able to complete this national focus, which begins the army modernization. Now you can modify your military doctrine, and once this army reorganization decision runs out, you can progress down your focus tree. I am just using console, so it's available even though I still have the decision. Down here you can modernize your infantry equipment, artillery, and gain some more motorized equipment. But most importantly, you can complete this focus, which allows you to employ military high command and other advisors if they reach level 5. This is the biggest difference from this focus, which is from the Gaulle's path, where if you complete this focus, if you go down the Gamelin's path, your generals have to have rank 5 before you can employ them, but if you go down the Gaulle's path, you only have to complete this focus. They don't have to have level 5. So, to sum up the Gamelin's route, the Gamelin's focus path, it's basically as it was in history. You complete this focus, then wait 3 years before the army modernization is permitted. Then you complete this focus and wait another year until your army is modernized. And then you can hopefully defend your territory against the Germans. This path seems simple, right? Well, that's the goal. And that's basically how it was. This path is supposed to be simple, it's supposed to take long, it's supposed to be predictable, nothing crazy happening here. Because for that we have the Charles de Gaulle's focus path. The main thing here is that if you go down this path, you will have to deal with the traditionalist old guard officers who will oppose the modernization and reorganization of the army. Let's take a look. This event tells you about de Gaulle's history and also his work and writings, especially about the book Vers l'armée de métier, which means towards the professional army. He basically summed up in his book how French army should look like and is the main cornerstone of this path. But as you can see here, old guards won't like it very much. And in this event you are presented with three major options. You can either retire them, which removes those generals completely, or you can send them to colonies, or you can just say, well, we don't care and proceed with their organization either way. Main difference between those are that there are 5 levels of old guard's opposition decisions, which will trigger after you complete every reorganization focus. And if you select this decision where you keep all your generals, you will always start from level 5, which is the worst. And you will have to wait longer time before you can proceed with the focuses, or suffer penalties. If you send them to colonies, you will start from level 4, and if you retire them, you will start from level 3. For now, let's just keep them all here and take a look on this decision category, which is now open. Here you can see that old guard's oppositions to reform decisions, which I talked about, it runs for 40 days, and when it's completed, it activates the level 4 old guard's oppositions to reform decisions. That when it's completed activates level 3 activates level 2, and so on and so on. Level 5 takes 40 days and causes the worst penalties. On the contrary, level 1 oppositions, which is the least worst, lasts for 140 days but causes only minor penalties. Therefore, completing focuses when you have level 1 or level 2 oppositions towards reforms is viable. You can also shorten the time if you complete this decision. The decision shortens the opposition decisions time every levels by 5 days. Wow, so much decisions. Anyway, you can also increase your war support or ask for more command power. Speaking about the opposition, let's take a look on the focuses. In de Gaulle's path, there is much more interesting things happening. For example, here, in this initial military tactics reassessment focus, you get an event where you can decide whether you want to go with mobile warfare or superior firepower doctrines. You can also see that if you complete this focus right now, when you have the level 5 opposition, you will get penalties. And the timer starts once again. You can also see that this focus, as many others, decrease the army inflexibility national spirit, and you have to get completely rid of it before you complete this focus. So, then you have the mechanization of the army focus, the automilitarius focus, which gives you some nice research bonuses, expand armor radio communication focus, which gives you the much needed research bonus for radio and also decreases the army inflexibility. Then you have encourage young officers focus, which gives you a lot of new generals. And probably the most fun focus, the expand école de guerre, which unlocks training the decisions, which you can see here. Through these decisions, you can train your young generals, give them additional traits and skills. Then you can also expand the French foraging legion, reconcile with the old guards and get them from the colonies back, expand the special forces and then improve them, and finally finalize the military doctrine reassessment. Then you can complete this focus, which we talked about earlier, and get that sweet military high command. One last note for the Gaulle's path. There will definitely be more unique things for it when the political branches for France are ready. Because if you have an autocratic government, well, would you let anyone oppose your reforms? I guess not. To sum up the army branches in a few seconds, the Gamelin's path is click and forget path, while the Charles de Gaulle's is much more fun, but also much more engaging, and it really allows you to mold French army into the best army in the world. If we take a quick look on the Air Force branch, there are two paths as well. First one is when you nationalize aeronautical industry, which is the faster path, and you can then modernize much quicker. Or you can support independent aircraft companies, which is the path that takes longer, but gives you more. Through this you can also unofficially support Spain in its civil war. This focus lets you send air volunteers to Spain, but only air volunteers, no divisions. Then there are some basic focuses for research bonuses, and also an aircraft purchase from the USA, which isn't finished yet. Here in the Navy branch there are four main and the most interesting focuses. First one is to promote Francois Darlan to Admiral de la Flotte, which gives him a much better trade and also improves his skills. A quick history note, Darlan said to the French government that he was feeling inferior when he was dealing with the British, because they had much higher ranks in their navy. So they made this rank just for Francois Darlan, for him to be on the same level with the British admirals. The second one is to reactivate obsolete ships and send them to the colonies, which gives your puppets a nice bunch of ships. And then there is one for the Joffre class carrier, which is similar to the German Graf Zeppelin focus, and the Richelieu battleships, which is similar to the Bismarck one, except Bismarck is 1940 type and this class is 1946 type. And here we are at the end of this video. This was definitely harder than I thought to put together, the video and the content alike, because, you know, trying to balance all the advisors and trying to make it as interesting and two paths as different as possible, yeah, definitely took some time. But in the end, I think it will be worth it. So thank you for watching. If you are interested, you can visit us on Discord or support me on Patreon. I will probably put this to the early access soon. And yeah, that will be all. I will see you next time. Bye.